12. In this installation, we will be answering questions based on the short story of Eveline. Now it says read the extracts below and answer the set questions set on each. The number of marks allocated to each question serves as a guide to the expected length of your answer. And now it says note that the answers you should answer the questions set on both extracts, question 5.1 and question 5.2. Okay, so extract 1 says home. She looked around the room, reviewing all its familiar objects which she had dusted once a week for so many years, wondering where on earth all the dust came from. Perhaps she would never see again those familiar objects from which she had never dreamed of being divided. And yet during all those years she had never found out the name of the priest whose yellowing photograph hung on the wall above the broken harmonium beside the colored prints of the promises made to blessed Margaret Mary Alacoque. He had been a school friend of her father. Whenever he showed the photograph to a visitor, her father used to pass it with a casual word, "He is in Melbourne now." She had consented to go away, to leave home. Was it wise? She tried to weigh each side of the question. In her home anyway, she had shelter and food. She had those whom she had known all her life about her. Of course, she had to work very hard, both in the house and at the business. What would they say of her in the stores when they found out that she had run away with a fellow? Say she was a fool, perhaps, and her place would be filled up by advertisement. Miss Gavan would be glad. She always had an edge on her, especially when there were people listening. Okay, now we have read the extract. Let us go to the question. It says 5.1.1 refer to line 1. Who does she refer to in this line? Well, 5.1.1, she refers to Eveline. Okay, now let's go to 5.1.2. It says, in reference to the extract, briefly describe 2 objects in the room that are symbols of stagnation. Well, we could say that objects that describe stagnation would be curtains. So we would say curtains. And now something else that we would say is a photograph of the priest. So it is a photograph of the priest. The curtains are always on the wall. They are always hanging on the wall. They do not go anywhere. So that shows that there is a bit of a stagnant or a stationary let's say situation there. And the photograph of the priest on the wall is also one of the examples that you can use whenever you're trying to explain or give examples of stagnation in this installation. So we have 5.1.3. It says refer to lines 12 to 13, and A says identify the figure of speech used in this line. Let's go to line 12 and 13. Here's 10, 11, 12, 13. It says she tried to weigh each side of the question. In her home anyway, she had shelter and food. Now what can we say is the figure of speech used in this line? We can say that it is a metaphor. In explanation, we would say that it is relevant because it depicts how Eveline weighs her options, whether to stay or leave. The same way a person literally weighs an object. Okay, let's go on to 5.1.4. It says refer to line 11 and explain the irony of this line. Well, in this line we can say that the father of Eveline is a bit contradictory to himself, because Eveline's father is proud of his friend who left Dublin for Melbourne. But he, on the other side, let me correct this. But he does not want Eveline to leave. Okay, now let's go to 5.1.5. 5.1.5. It says, what does the short story Eveline reveal about the character Eveline's father? And you must substantiate your answer. Or we can say he is abusive. Let's name this point 1. We can say he is abusive. 1. We can say he beat up his sons. Or you can even say Eveline or her mother. And then for point 2, we can say that he is uncaring. In explanation, you would say he is unwilling to contribute money for family groceries. Or you can say that he is selfish. Or you can say he is self-centered. Or you can say he is self-absorbed. Now, how can we substantiate this? We can say it is because he uses his money for his own personal satisfaction. Only. Okay, now let's go on to the next question. It's 5.1.6. This is 5.1.5, and this would be 5.1.6. It says, briefly explain how music from the street organ influences Eveline's decision not to leave Dublin. Well, if you remember correctly, it says that while Eveline was staring out the class window, listening to the music from down the street, the Italian music from down the street, and reminiscing of the memories that she has of her mother and her father back then when they were still fine, you would remember that they said that it reminds her of the promises she made to her mother that she would take care of the family. So in answering this question, we would say that the music imposes a paralyzing effect on Eveline that it reminds her of the promise she had made to her late mother, which was that she would always take care of her family. Okay, now let's go to 5.1.8. We are going to go back to a question 5.1.5. I just discovered another characteristic of Eveline's father. So let us quickly do these ones so we may be able to go back to 5.1.5. And here we have 5.1.7. And now let us discuss the theme of paralysis. So we can say that Eveline's immediate environment which is uninspiring, with dusty curtains and dull pictures, results in Eveline wanting to elope and therefore get away from the paralyzing environment. Okay, we can further say that Eveline is subject to abuse by her father and she therefore wants to leave. But she is bound by her moral consciousness on the promise she had made to her mother therefore trapping her in the paralyzing environment. Okay, that is a point that you can use on discussing the theme of paralysis. And now you can say that, again, let me quickly erase here. Right, so you can further say that the music Eveline hears down the street also has a paralyzing effect on her, as it caused her not to leave. Alright, let's continue. We are now going to 5.1.8. 5.1.8. It says, refer to the short story as a whole. Eveline takes a wise decision not to live with Frank. Discuss your view. Now, a question like this requires you to first state whether or not you agree with the statement given to you. If you agree, you shall state your point by first writing yes or no. Okay, now let us discuss the yes part. Okay, so it says yes, Eveline takes a wise decision not to live with Frank. Why? It fulfills the promise she made to her mother to keep the home together for as long as she could. You can further say that leaving her home or leaving would result in her losing her dignity as an Irish person. And now you can add to that and say Eveline turns pale and cold at the thought of leaving. Which justifies her fear of leaving and exposing herself to the danger of a new country and her means of departure. Okay, let's go on to no. Let me write this. Okay, so we have no. Under no, you can say that Eveline will be subjected to abuse by her father continuously or continually, for she had decided not to leave. You can say that she will go back to her paralyzing environment, both at home and at her work. You can say that she loses an opportunity to explore and live a new life. In a new environment. Say her decision not to leave is unfair on Frank, who had done everything to show how much he cares for her. Okay, those are both of our motions, and I believe that if you think that any of them best suits your opinion, you would able to analyze and then utilize this information in an exam. Now going back to question 5.1.5, we can add on to the points given before and say that he is carrying. We can say it is because he took his family to picnics and he read to Eveline when she was tired and sleepy. Okay, now I believe that is all for this session. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.